My boss?
Okay, I sent it to Emily. Yeah. Right, no.
What's your wife do? She
Can you get a picture of me with the total?
absolutely. Did he do that last night or was that tonight? They wouldn't.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to walk up Especially you know got different. There's a cable. They were up to working on the cable and found the dollar. I don't really. I counted about maybe. No, they're not. They're not. I was at a veterans thing on their home side.
Hello. Hello. Can everyone hear me? I can't hear.
You're right on.
Great. Great. What about this one? Awesome. Hey, Aaron. Aaron, the microphones aren't on? I was like, hello? Okay, can everyone hear me now?
No.
Hello. Oh, there we go. 4 times the charm. All right. Thank you all for coming. I know it's a little hot, but we thank you all for being here. We know there was a little location discrepancy. We're figuring that out. We have someone down at Market Square, so pointing people here. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Emily Higley. I'm a master's student at the School of Social Work here at the University of Pittsburgh. Yup. Hail the pit. Let's go. And I'm a co-organizer of this event, and I have Erin right there, and her sister Emma also helped us, but she unfortunately couldn't be here with us today. Okay, so today we gather in rage, sadness, despair, disgusted at the state of our country right now. In 2022 alone, we have had over 290 mass shootings, 27 of those being school massacres. I had to edit this speech multiple times in the 2 weeks it took me to write it to get accurate numbers, if that tells you anything. It started at about 246 mass shootings a couple weeks ago, and we are only on the 161st day of 2022. Innocent people, innocent children are being taken at the hands of gun violence. It doesn't have to be this way. It's never had to be this way. But apparently people don't understand that following the Second Amendment that was written in the 1700s is barbaric, and things can be changed even 300 years later, and I promise you, everything's gonna be okay. Thank you. Our lives and the lives of our loved ones depend on it. Something has to change. I shouldn't have to be scared to go to class. I shouldn't have to sit in my class and think about the easiest way to get out should someone start shooting. And I've come to do that basically everywhere I go. I'm scared. 10 years ago, on December 14th, 2012, we said never again after 20 children and 6 teachers were shot in their elementary classrooms at Sandy Hook Elementary School. 4 years ago, on February 14th, 2018, we said never again after 17 people were murdered in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Yet here we stand, 4 years later, saying never again, still fighting to protect the lives of innocent children, going to school to learn, to meet friends, to build the stepping stones to careers that unfortunately they don't get to have, because time and time again, instead of giving actual responses and solutions to a fixable problem, we give thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers mean nothing because shootings are just what seems to be an everyday thing in the America we're living in. We need action. I also think it's important to talk about how other countries have handled mass shootings and reflect on how quick and easy it was to change the laws in countries after people were murdered, since that seems to be a very difficult thing for our American government to understand. A British gunman killed 16 people in 1987, and the country banned semi-automatic weapons like the ones he used, such as AR-15s. Most handguns were banned shortly after in 1996 following a school shooting. Now, they have the lowest gun-related death rates in the developed world. Following a massacre in 1996 in Australia, mandatory gun buybacks were put in place, and the rate of mass shootings went from every 18 months to only one in the 26 years since gun reform was put in place. This was in 1996. We're in the year 2022, nearly 30 years later, and our lawmakers still can't get their shit together to understand that something can be done regarding gun violence. Thank you. In the wise words of the amazing Eva Gonzalez, one of the March for Our Lives co-founders, we call BS. Let's take a look at Massachusetts, a state with one of the lowest rates of gun violence deaths in the United States. Massachusetts has some training requirements before people can possess a weapon. Residents must also demonstrate that they have passed a firearm safety course before applying for their license to carry a firearm of any kind. The literal bare minimum. Literal bare minimum. That's how easy it is to reduce gun violence. What's it gonna take for people to see that strict gun laws work? It's almost like there's a simple solution, but the corrupt hands of our government care more about their Second Amendment rights, which was made when muskets were the strongest guns they had, not AR-15s, rather than preventing mass murders in everyday places like grocery stores, churches, schools, and just on the street, all of which have happened this month. It's truly that simple, and it's truly that easy. It's the selfishness of the greedy right-wing conservative politicians making money off of these weapons that's standing in the way of protecting us. Politicians who are supposed to speak for us won't even listen. One of these politicians I speak about is my buddy Ted Cruz. Boo, boo, yeah. Ted Cruz, how dare you? How dare you attend the NRA convention the following days after a fourth grade classroom was massacred in your state? Most of the children murdered could only be identified by the shoes they were wearing because that was the only identifying feature left. You are the reason that innocent children are going to die, and I hope that you know that. And the same goes to every single conservative politician who attended the convention that day. At this point, it's hard to think that you don't enjoy watching people die. You disgust me. When a mass casualty shooting happens, we immediately turn to they had serious mental illness. As a mental health professional and a therapist, this saying irks me. It indicates that any mentally ill person is capable of the horrific acts these terrorists ensue when that is not the case at all. You blame all of this on mental health, but yet mental health resources are so inaccessible in this country. You're contradicting yourself. If you're gonna blame this on mental health, at least fix the stigmatization in our country too. But I digress, as we are here today to fight for gun reform. I never thought I would live in a country where getting a gun is easier than purchasing an alcoholic beverage. Salvador Ramos, the shooter at the Uvalde massacre, legally purchased 2 AR-style guns just days after his 18th birthday. He waited, he planned this. In Texas and many other states, including my wonderful home state of Ohio, you don't have to have a permit to carry a firearm. Let's let that sink in. He did not have a permit to obtain or carry these weapons. He just could because he was 18. I don't know about you all, but that is one of the most brainless things I've ever heard. No proof that you know how to use a gun, no background check, nothing, not even a bare minimum, and that is terrifying. People are walking the streets with guns they don't even know how to use. So I ask everyone, waving their guns around like a trophy, if it was your child, your mother, your sister, your best friend massacred, would you care then? If the answer is no, say that you only care about yourself and walk. You do not care about anyone else. This leads me to conclude that that's what we're here to fight for. You should not be able to get your hands on a firearm unless you have a permit and correct training, period. Along with that, universal background checks are a simple thing to enact. There are so many other things that can be done to prevent gun violence, as many of our speakers will be discussing today. We need to fight. Our voices will be heard. Something has to be done. Thoughts and prayers aren't enough anymore. They never were in the first place. Giving your thoughts and prayers to a family who lost a child in a school shooting is just a slap in the face when a solution is visible. We demand action. Thank you. Thank you. So our first speaker of the day is actually one of my best friends. I've known her for years. Dana Pollock, who is a gun violence survivor. Dana is a rising senior at Miami University in Ohio, studying English literature. Please join me in welcoming Dana Pollock to the stage.
Hi, thank you all for being here. It's so awesome to see everyone here. Thank you, Emily, for the amazing speech. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about... Hello, can you hear me now? Okay, all right. Thank you all for being here. It's amazing to see all of you here. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about an experience that I had. I'm from Cleveland, and a few months back, I was downtown with some friends, and we were kind of going along a street, just a popular street that's honestly just a more going out area, and we were met with an array of gunshots right across from us. It feels weird sometimes to call myself a survivor because I was a little bit further away, but it completely traumatized me, and it was hard to navigate that when you talk about an experience that had no fatalities. It wasn't newsworthy, and you're met with kind of not a shock. And so it's so normalized to have these experiences and just expect that maybe when you're downtown or just anywhere in that type of area, and it was just really hard. And so I just wrote a little bit about my frustration with the normalcy and everything I kind of was thinking about. And Emily asked me to read a poem that I wrote. So it's pretty personal. I've never shared a poem publicly before, but I will read it and hopefully you guys like it. Death is a mystery that lurks inside my head, of somber fascination, once living, now is dead. I don't fear death completely, the living scares me more. This life I'm just surviving, the life I should adore. So now I'll just get high in hopes that I'll forget and lay down in a place where death is not a threat. But forgetting is the problem when hate kills us in the streets, where good news feels so fleeting, the story's so incomplete. It's a privilege to be so affected by an experience so non-unique, where no one bats an eye, and I feel so utterly weak. So I cry inside my room over people I don't know, clinging on to innocence of a world I thought would grow. I wish it felt much bigger when I tell them a story so dark that it remains just a droplet in a sea of something stark. I'm labeled as dramatic while I keep my thoughts so cynical, but how could I feel different when peace comes as a miracle? With that, I'll just go back to living in my dreams where I'm feeling rather soft, where the sunlight always beams. Thank you.
All right, before we invite our next speaker up, we kind of wanted to lead a little chant action going on. So when I say protect kids, you all say not guns. All right, we ready? Protect kids. Protect kids. Protect kids. Protect kids. Protect kids. Well done. All right. So our next speaker is Reverend Eileen Smith. A registered nurse, Reverend Smith retired from the Pennsylvania Department of Health Southwest District, where she was the Violence and Injury Prevention Consultant for the Southwest District. Reverend Smith serves on multiple boards and committees and is the executive director of the South Pittsburgh Coalition for Peace, which was founded in 2005 following the shooting and killing of a 16-year-old Carrick High School student. She continues her work in violence prevention and a public health standpoint and oversees many initiatives, including the South Pittsburgh Peacemakers Street Outreach Intervention component that focuses on mediation and alternatives to violence. Please help me in welcoming Reverend Eileen Smith to the stage. You want to get up there?
No. Oh. No, I don't want to get up. I'm of the elderly population, you see. Good afternoon, everyone. I am so honored to be a part of this.
We'll move it over a little bit, the speakers.
There you go.
And the speakers are like right into that.
We are family. Got my family with me. Y'all too young for that. But I'm so happy to be here, and I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. Can everybody hear me good?
Closer, closer. There you go.
Testing. Is that better? All right. Okay. She told you a little bit about the South Pittsburgh Coalition for Peace. But we seek to build communities that are peaceful and nurturing by offering relevant workshops and events to its members, other organizations in the South Pittsburgh community at large. And the coalition does aggressive community outreach, which is one of the cornerstones of the program and what makes the South Pittsburgh Coalition for Peace unique and irreplaceable to the communities that we service. We target active gang members, shooters, and violent offenders through the South Pittsburgh Peacemakers component of the South Pittsburgh Coalition for Peace. And they consist of 4 South Pittsburgh intervention specialists and a chaplain. They're trained peacemakers, violence interrupters, and outreach workers designed to prevent shootings by identifying and mediating potentially lethal conflicts in our communities. And they also follow up to ensure, yes, that the conflict does not reignite. And there are 3 of them here and a chaplain, and I would like for them to stand up so you can see who they are. Thank you. They are out there every day, risking their lives on the street for not a lot of money at all. But they love the people. They love the young people and their mentors. And they've been there and done it as well. So they have a voice that these young people are going to listen to. They do mediations. They prevent retaliations. We've just had too many shootings, and they go and they prevent retaliation of that shooting. They meet with families. They deal with truancy and bullying. Kids come up to them crying, saying, "I'm being bullied at school." You know why? Because they're visible and they're out on the streets, and they take these kids under their wing. And they go to their parents, they go to the schools, and this kid's being bullied. So I just cannot thank them enough, and I'm so very proud of them. We also have a resource referral coordinator. Okay, what does she do? All right, well, the peacemakers meet people in the streets. You know, there's a lot of issues to violence, right? Yeah. There's a reason for violence. And they address these issues: homelessness, finances, jobs, mental health problems, even spiritual problems. Amen. And they fill out referrals and they send them to our coordinator, our resource referral coordinator. She's sitting over there right now. Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Right. And we also have my faithful executive assistant. Without her, I would be absolutely overwhelmed. So we thank our grant makers for making it possible for us to have these additional staff people. We also target our children, and we do the 10th annual Dare to Dream Youth Session. This will be 10 years this year. And we showcase the positive things that these young people do, not just the negative things that they do. We work with them, we prepare them. We give them outstanding youth awards and scholarships. And if they don't have money, to buy laptops to go to school. And we provide them with those things. We also do self-care workshops for us, first responders, people like Ceasefire and Moms Demand Action, and all of you who are out there and you're witnessing these things. Our peacemakers witness homicides. They know some of the young people that they've turned up on the crime scenes for. And so we need self-care. We need to learn how to take care of ourselves. And so we do self-care workshops that's open to anyone nationally. We just did one and there were over 400 registered from across the nation. And it was virtual, of course. We also have a forum, and it's called The Effects of Violence on the Community, a Public Health Problem. And we invite all disciplines, all aspects that are affected, and they speak. We have a day that we do this and we learn from each other. We will be starting in September, which is Suicide Preparedness Month, a series of suicide prevention and awareness workshops. And you don't want to miss that, and we're going to be publicizing it quite well. And our staff, like I said, exists of an executive director. I'm one of the founders of the South Pittsburgh Coalition for Peace and a member of the board of directors of the Birmingham Foundation, which is one of our funders, an executive assistant. We also have a media director that manages our Facebook page and our website and puts relevant information on there related to violence every day and every month. So I'm going to just tell you some really disturbing statistics. I've been at a number of vigils for people who have died from gun violence within a matter of days. We've sponsored some, we've attended some. Buffalo, the children at Uvalde, our own children that were gunned down in the street in front of a nuisance market. We did a sort of a prayer vigil protest, if you will, in front of that market. And I funeralized too many of these people as a pastor, and I'm tired of it. Are you tired of it? Yeah. I know I'm tired of it. So in the city of Pittsburgh, there have been 28 homicides, now 29, because there was just a homicide last night in South Pittsburgh, in Knoxville, and 56 non-fatal shootings. And 9 of those now are from South Pittsburgh. And we consist of like 9 neighborhoods. That's a lot. We've become a hot spot. And that's why we're out there every day. And we're going to be out there. And we just keep writing grants so we can put more peacemakers on the front lines. Amen. Yes, that's what we need to do. Meet them where they are. Offer them an alternative to violence, such as jail time, death, but jobs, okay? Education, housing, and all of those issues that bring on the fear that causes the violence in the first place. And I will close with this, now that I've given you an overview of the coalition and some stats. I want to encourage you. I want to encourage all of you who are represented here today for this most worthy cause. You know, and we've been used to the old cliche thoughts and prayers. And some are tired of hearing it because it's the same old, same old. And I get it as an old Baptist preacher. I get it. No action. But I wanted to stop by today and tell you that thoughts and prayers are important. Our thoughts and prayers, okay? Because we must keep those affected, impacted, and devastated by gun violence and mass shootings in our thoughts and prayers. Yes, we do. We need to help them get through it from near or far. And we do want and we demand action. And we cannot lose hope in doing so. because of what we see, and we see too much of it. But we must be steadfast in belief and have faith that change is coming. Change must come. And faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen yet. Because what we are doing in this movement to end gun violence is what my friend Jesse Jackson said: keep hope alive. Keep hope alive, my friends, by being determined, by lobbying, by making peaceful demands, by calling for action, energizing, caring, and even showing love, and praying and marching in the struggle for our lives. We must continue to do what we're doing and never ever give up, never get tired until this gun violence pandemic is defeated. So I say to you, all of you, keep hope alive. And we say to those who refuse to make sensible gun laws, save our lives. Keep hope alive. Save our lives. Come on. Keep hope alive. Save our lives. Keep hope alive. Save our lives. Keep hope alive. Save our lives. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I hope you guys are staying safe and cool out there. If you need to move into the shade, do what you gotta. Thank you so much for being here today. So our next speaker is Ms. Hadley Haas, who is the co-lead for the Moms Demand Action Pittsburgh chapter. Please join me in welcoming Hadley Haas.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Aaron. I'm so honored to be a part of this today, and it's tough to follow Reverend Eileen. So thank you to the incredible Reverend Eileen, who had a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday. So my name is Hadley Haas. I am the Pittsburgh local co-lead for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. I am also a mom. I have two sons, an 18-year-old who graduated from Quaker Valley High School this past Monday, and a 16-year-old who will be a junior there next year. In December 2012, my kids were sitting in their tearful suburban elementary school while the lives of first graders were taken at Sandy Hook Elementary School. In February 18, 2018, my kids were in their newly renovated middle school on the cusp of entering high school when a gunman stormed Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. In November of that same year, we were cheering at a soccer game while a terrible hate-fueled tragedy unfolded at the Tree of Life Synagogue in our backyard in a place I had driven past dozens of times. Those events shook me to my core and brought me to Moms Demand Action. And now we have Buffalo and Uvalde and so many more. It's these horrific tragedies that wake us up and demand our attention, but we can't lose sight of the daily toll of gun violence happening all around us. I took this role in December. Since that time, it's been my honor to meet heroes like Tina Ford and Kathy Welsh. They're fierce mothers whose sons' young lives were taken by gun violence. They fight for the legacies of Armani and Jeremy, and they hold other mothers of murdered sons tight while they embark on the same painful journey. Their resolve inspires and sustains me. From January to June of this year, we lost 15 children under the age of 21 to gun violence in Allegheny County. That includes 15-year-old Marquise Campbell, who was killed outside of his high school, or his school, and 18-month-old DeAvery Thomas, the 18-month-old whose life was taken on May 29th in downtown Pittsburgh. Gun violence is the leading cause of death among teenagers and children in Pennsylvania. Let me say that again. Gun violence is the leading cause of death among children and teens in Pennsylvania. In every room I've sat in across the city, community leaders are calling for youth participation. We need your voices. We need your energy. We need your love, and we need your votes. So here are my calls to the young people and to everybody here today. Number one, call your senators. If you text the word BOLD to 64433, it'll give you the numbers of your senators. They will ask for your zip code and give you the numbers. Important legislation has passed the House. Now we need the Senate to do their part. Tell them don't look away. Call them today. And keep calling them. And call your state rep and senators too. Republicans have control of our legislature in Pennsylvania, and they refuse to bring gun safety legislation from to the floor. Tell them don't look away. For the young people here, if you are 18 or going to be 18 in November, vote and bring along as many of your friends as you can. No one can afford to sit this one out. We have far too many legislators in Harrisburg and Washington, D.C. who hide behind process and rhetoric while they fail us time and time again. If they won't act, if they won't listen, we will vote for those who will. Use your platforms, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, to show your peers how and why to get in this fight, and keep showing them. I know, I have teenage boys. They need a lot of reminders. Keep telling them. Follow candidates like Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman and share their messages broadly. For the students here, you can join Students Demand Action. If you text the word students to 64433, you will join up with students and get involved in your schools and your universities to make change at a local level. Again, that's the word students to 64433. Likewise, if you're not a student and you want to get involved with Moms Demand Action, you can text the word commit to 64433. Finally, love each other. Listen to each other and look for the common humanity in your schools, in our city, and across our country. Gun safety should not be tribal. Gun safety should not be political. Gun safety should matter to all of us. I'd like to close with a quote from the great Congressman John Lewis, one of my favorites, from the House sit-in after the Pulse nightclub shooting in 2016 in Orlando, Florida. He said, "We've been quiet for too long. There comes a time when you have to say something. You have to make a little noise. You have to move your feet. This is the time." So this is our time. This is your time. Thank you for coming out today, and let's do this together.
Thank you so much, Hadley. Up next, we welcome Josh Fleetman to the stage. Fleetman to the stage. Josh is the Western Pennsylvania manager for Ceasefire PA, the Commonwealth's gun violence prevention organization. Welcome, Josh.
Yay, Josh! Yay, Josh!
Good afternoon, everyone. Ceasefire PA is so proud to stand with this coalition of advocates and with all of you in saying with one united voice that enough is enough, and it's time that we do something to prevent this slaughter. Ceasefire PA has been working to build this movement for 2 decades in Pennsylvania. We organize with communities closest to the issue of gun violence. We hold those in power accountable, and we maximize the strengths of every member in our broad coalition. We envision a world where we can live free from gun violence. I am sick and tired. Sick and tired of the needless, preventable carnage. Sick and tired of the obstruction, the deflection, the denial from our leaders in power. I am sick and tired of only being offered thoughts and prayers by those in a position to take action to stem the tide of this violence. No more thoughts and prayers from them. We need action. I'm also sick and tired of hearing from the same extremist, detached from reality rhetoric from pro-gun zealots. Even though they are in a minority of the population, they have sadly captured the votes of too many of our legislators. Those extremists, they spew paranoid delusions of quote-unquote tyranny. They spout misguided notions of patriotism and freedom. The real tyranny is the terror that too many of us feel every day because of the gun violence epidemic. Real patriotism is wanting to do something to save the lives of our 45,000 fellow Americans who die every year from gun violence. The real freedom is being able to live a life free from gun violence. Let me ask you something, and I want to hear from you. Are we free if we're terrified to send our kids to school? Are we free if we're afraid of praying at our house of worship, or going to work, or shopping at the grocery store? Are we free if we're forced to choose not to go out and enjoy a concert, or go to a bar, or a movie, or the shopping mall, all because those whose job it is to keep us safe are refusing to act? Is that freedom? No, that is tyranny. A tyranny imposed on us by an extremist minority who worships at the altar of the gun religion, along with their obedient legislators, with callous disregard for the lives and freedoms of their fellow Americans. We can be free from the ever-present fear of gun violence. And here's the thing, we can do it while also respecting responsible gun ownership. Policies that evidence shows are effective at keeping guns out of the wrong hands. Yes, we need federal action, we need it, but we also, as Hadley mentioned, cannot let our state legislators off the hook. We need action in Harrisburg right now. We need to pass things like extreme risk protection orders, also known as red flag laws, requiring the reporting of lost and stolen firearms, universal background checks, banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Taking the handcuffs off our local governments by ending firearm preemption at the state level and allowing localities to pass their own gun violence policies. State Representative Dan Frankel is here, and he's been a champion of that policy in particular, so thank you, Representative Frankel. Things like requiring safe storage of guns in the home, and also investing in the violence prevention and intervention programs like the South Pittsburgh Peacemakers and so many others. I have spoken to countless gun owners and self-described, quote, conservatives with common sense, to veterans and police officers, to Republicans and independents who support all of these sensible solutions to keep our communities safe. All you have to do is look at the evidence. States with stronger gun laws have less gun violence. Fact, end of discussion. So what are we going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Here's what vote for one, yes. Here's what you can also do. Call your state senator and representative first thing on Monday morning if they don't yet support gun safety legislation. Demand that they co-sponsor these bills. Tell them that your vote depends on how they act or don't act on this issue specifically. If your state legislators are already on board, call the Speaker of the House, Brian Cutler, and Senate Majority Leader Kim Ward to demand that they stop the legislative logjam and bring these bills to a vote. If you can, I know it's short notice, but come with me to Harrisburg this coming Monday. The House Judiciary Committee is meeting for the first time since the Uvalde massacre, and gun safety bills are on the agenda for the first time in years because of the pressure we are putting on them. Sadly, the majority party at that meeting has a raft of poison pill amendments planned and to undermine those bills. So we need to get as many people as possible in that meeting room, holding signs, wearing shirts, sharing the message to stop playing games with people's lives. And finally, you can help Ceasefire PA build a memorial to lives lost, past, and future. If you're a parent, even of a grown child, send us a memento that represents them. A small toy, a photo, one of their drawings, a small article of clothing, or a Matchbox car. We will assemble these loving objects into a memorial to tribute to those children who have been lost to gun violence and those whose lives could be saved by stronger gun laws. And we'll deliver that memorial directly to Speaker of the House Cutler and Majority Leader Ward at their offices in Harrisburg. They must face up to their inaction and see the lives that are counting on them to do something. Come and see me and my colleague Beth at our table over here to get involved in any or all of this work. Change can happen. Look around you. We have momentum. We have truth. We have numbers on our side. We just need to continue to demand action and make our voices heard. So, let me hear your voices right now. Let's do some call and response. When I ask you, what do we want? You say safe communities. When I ask you, when do we want it? You say now. You ready? What do we want? Safe communities. When do we want it? What do we want? Safe communities. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Safe communities. When do we want it? Now. Thank you.
All right. So next we have Justin Platney, who is referred to us from the Westmoreland Racial and Social Justice Group, who is just a concerned citizen. So let's welcome Justin to the stage.
Okay, full disclaimer, I have social anxiety, so if I pause along the way, you know why. But thank you. I also want to thank not just Marching for Our Lives, but the specific staff too, who's been accommodating and reassuring to me. But for everybody else, it doesn't take this current generation to stand up and do something different. It's great what they're doing, but any one of you from any generation, the next generation, previous generations, we can all be leaders. Just step up and find the support wherever you need it. But as for Westmoreland Racial Justice, this is a group I actually co-organized with a friend. We're basically in Westmoreland County. Yeah, thank you. And there's a lot of people out there who feel truly isolated. Maybe you guys know somebody who feels that way. I have a little table set up there. We would be more than happy to help them find their voice in a group that they belong with. But thank you all for attending today here. Unfortunately, this is not a movement that is going to be resolved anytime soon. This is a continuing battle with more than one underlying issue. We may fantasize that our problems are so easily solved by such action as banning weapons of war like assault rifles, which we should do, but unfortunately the underlying problem is systematic. To say guns are the whole issue would be disrespecting the more than 20 victims of the 2014 knife attack at nearby Franklin Regional High School, or the roughly 100 incidents of cars running into protesters who were responding to the murder of George Floyd. Banning assault rifles, improving background checks, requiring training and tests to own guns are all great ways to start the discussion, but it must be treated as only just the beginning. We must continue to push back on the organization and narratives that redirect us from the underlying answers. Obviously, the NRA must be held accountable for their obstruction of actual progress and justice. Their parties vote too much. We need to demand our politicians be clear with their message, stern with their words, and consistent with their actions to hold them accountable. They answer to us. Thank you. We need politicians who aren't afraid to upset traditionalists as they seek accountability no matter where injustice may lie. We need leaders who acknowledge all mass shootings, even if it's deemed gang-related. When the police's story changes too many times, we need leaders who call for the FBI to investigate the police department. Prior to the DOJ announcing their intervention in Uvalde, Texas earlier this week, how many officials were actually calling for this beforehand, for the DOJ to intervene? When the solution is more police funding, where are the leaders who suggest competence and reform instead? Money doesn't buy courage, especially in a town like Uvalde, Texas, which spends 40% of its budget on policing. This is the beginning of a long fight. We need leaders who will fight for voting rights even after their election, because addressing gun violence won't be solved with one or two bills. The House of Representatives passed a bill this week raising the age limit of purchasing a semi-automatic rifle from 18 to 21, but the rational part of the human brain continues developing until age 25. Furthermore, this bill passed through the House bloated with other stipulations that are guaranteed to break off any support that it may have had in Congress. If this bill fails, it needs to be reissued as an individual standalone to get anything done. And if it still doesn't get done, at least we know who voted against what. Additionally, leaders must acknowledge the absurdity of the biased and illegitimate Supreme Court that will overturn any change Congress makes, no matter how little or symbolic it may be at most. Many of our leaders won't even entertain the notion of expanding the courts, so the battle for the systematic change could possibly take decades. There are so many issues that we each perceive as needing prioritized, but perhaps if we find the common ground, we can work together and find solutions faster. Looking at long-term goals, we must not allow the narrative to take hold that public schools aren't worth saving or funding because they are unsafe. We already see public outrage and censorship, including in Westmoreland County, of people trying to ban certain materials from schools. We must fight back so that another generation is not raised in fear and ignorance and continuing this trend. Right now, we can attend school board meetings to ensure students are properly educated so they may continue. Oh, I already said that already. Thank you. That's why we need unity. Not unity with the people upholding the status quo that led us into this mess, but unity within communities. When right-wing fascism falsely blames the LGBTQ+ community for the Uvalde school shooting, recognize that we all suffer. When the media pushes mental illness as the cause of mass shootings, ask why don't other countries have the violence we have? Also ask, why don't we have the free healthcare to manage such illness? That mental health stigma hurts us all and our families. When people are pushed to the breaking point from unjust economic hardships, ask if we could have afforded more relief instead of more grief. When they point to a city or town that has enacted gun legislation but still has gun violence, point back at the surrounding towns that have not enacted such bans. Guns don't know borders. Do not know borders, proper English. As we saw in Buffalo, this violence isn't limited to any one region or community. The hate and blame will travel, and that's why we need to reach out to our neighbors to build an alliance. Neighbors in both distance and identity. Stop the violence.
Up next, I'd like to introduce Hannah Van During. Ms. Van During was once an elementary school PA teacher, or physical education teacher, sorry. And she's currently being reelected for her second term on the National Education Association's Executive Committee.
How about those organizers? Are they just amazing? Can you give it up for those organizers? How many students do we have here today? Let's hear you. Students? Anywhere? How about parents and grandparents? How about, do we have any educators here? All right. Well, good afternoon, Pittsburgh. My name is Hannah Van During. I am an elementary physical education teacher, and I proudly serve on the NEA Executive Committee. We represent 3 million dedicated and passionate educators, public service workers, aspiring educators, retired educators. I've seen you today. And we are here. We believe in public education. We believe that every student should have access to a safe and welcoming school. So I bring greetings from our 3 million members. And I was honored. It is an honor to be an educator. I taught elementary PE at Ridgewood Elementary, and I worked with some phenomenal individuals. Greg, our custodian, who mentored students and made sure that they were seen and that they knew they were cared for. Mary Ann, one of our first grade teachers, who ensured that every student knew that they were welcome in her classroom and that they were loved. And Kelly Benny, the music teacher, who made each and every one of us a better person every day. And the students that I had the honor of working with, Henry and Carol always pop into my mind. Henry on the stage, hula hooping and doing the chicken dance at the same time. Who does that, Henry? Come on. The parents, the grandparents, the volunteers that made Ridgewood a safe and welcoming school for all. But you know, in my dreams of being an educator, never once did I dream of leading an active shooter drill. Never once did I dream of talking to my students about gun violence at Ridgewood Elementary. I dreamed of play day. I dreamed of racket sports. I dreamed of making a difference in each and every one of the students that I worked with, each and every one of their lives. And I never imagined the horrific state of affairs that we'd be in this country at this moment, and the pain that is being caused to students, educators, families in our communities. We can do better. But you know, can we do better? You ready to do better? I'm ready to do better. Being an educator has always been about building a better future. It's about making sure that we are there for our students every day. And it's always been in need of courage to work with our students and assist them every day. But that courage was never about crouching behind a desk, throwing yourself in front of a bullet, barricading a door so that an active shooter couldn't get in and harm your students. And when I saw those pictures, and I'm sure you're all with me, the pictures of those beautiful children, the students that lost their lives in the latest tragic school shooting, it reminded me of my students and thinking about their faces and them laughing in the lunchroom, walking together in the hallway, and playing wall ball at recess. It's heartbreaking. That could be one of my students. And to see the students, or the pictures of the educators who lost their lives, and every educator, everyone who's lost a life, when I see those educators, I see my colleagues, I see my friends, I see my neighbors. I see people who go to work every day to help students succeed, to help them live into their brilliance. That's what we do. Because as educators, we want every student to walk in and know that they are safe and welcome. And right now, that's not what we feel as educators. That's not what we feel as parents. It's not what we feel as community members. We have to do better. And the idea, think about this. More guns in our schools will make our schools safer. Anyone here believe that? No! The fact is, more guns in our schools will make them less safe. And it will also create an atmosphere that is not conducive for teaching and learning. And you know, those ideas are not coming from those of us who have been in a classroom. They're coming from individuals who have never been responsible for the learning of a student. Those who have never walked in the shoes of an educator. We have to ensure that they hear us. That's why we're here. The purpose of public education, the job of an educator, the things that we do as parents and community members to ensure that our schools are safe and just. And I appreciate the last comment. Yes, there are those who want to undermine public education, and we are not going to let them do that. What we need for our students, we need more books, we need more counselors, we need more nurses, we need our students to feel the love and create that love of learning in every classroom and in every school across this nation. And if you want to arm educators, let's arm them with the time, the resources, and the class size that allows them to meet the needs of each and every child. That's what we should be arming educators with. I don't want a gun. I want to be able to help my students learn. And you know, it's time. It's time for Washington to listen. And I could not agree more. It is not about me as an educator or me as an adult. It is about our students and our students lifting their voices with us to make sure that they're changed. Washington needs to hear students. They need to hear loud and clear that we want common sense gun reform, and we want it now. So we've heard about hopes and dreams and thoughts and prayers, but many in Washington and gun lobbyists right now, they are hoping and praying that our passion and our determination will fade into the distance and cool off. Well, we're not here to answer their hopes and prayers. We are, in fact, here to turn up the heat. We are here to turn up the heat on them to do what is right and to do what we elected them to do. It takes a monster to kill a child. But to watch over and over again our children being killed in our public schools and do nothing is not just insanity, it's inhumane, and enough is enough. We need change. So Pittsburgh, we need the hope. We need the hope, and we need to lift one another up. But let's turn up the heat as well. Let's turn up the heat. Let's show our resolve, not just today, but tomorrow and Monday in those hearings and every day until those with power use that power for good and create the laws that we need to ensure that our students and our communities are safe. Thank you for being here. Thank you for turning up the heat. Thank you for joining this movement. And please join me. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Let's turn up the heat, Pittsburgh.
All right, how about all our speakers? Are you kidding me? Those are incredible. So we only have 2 speakers left, excluding Aaron's conclusion, but we are gonna end this with 2 amazing women who are gonna describe to us their firsthand perspective of the school shooting and the effects that shootings have on families. So Kristen Rick will be joining us on the stage now, and she's going to be sharing a firsthand perspective of her school shooting experience. Kristen is a mom of 3 little kids, a volunteer with South Hills Gun Sense Alliance, and a very proud Virginia Tech Hokies. Please welcome Kristen Rick to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I've been in this space for about 15 years, and something really feels different this time. The energy feels different, and I just really appreciate seeing so much support. Okay. Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm a mom of 3 small children and a volunteer with the South Hills Gun Sense Alliance. I'm going to try and keep this short because we have a lot of work to do. On a cold spring April morning, April 16th, 2007, I woke up to a quiet chaos. Emails from Virginia Tech asking to shelter in place due to an incident on campus. Not thinking too much into what this incident could be. There had been bomb threats the week before that all turned out to be like fake false alarms. Then, about an hour later, my world came crashing down. All that could be heard for hours were the sounds of sirens. Word started spreading that there was a massive shooting incident in Norris Hall, and now was the time for panic. Frantic calls and texts to my parents and my roommates, and then the phone lines crashed and everything went absolutely silent. I hope that you never experience the panic of not knowing where your people are. The sheer adrenaline running your body as you physically race from dorm to apartment, trying to gather a head count of everyone you love, making a mental list of who has checked in. I knew people in Norris Hall that day. One who, while on the phone with 911, had 2 bullets graze her head, never once hanging up the phone. One who had bullets flying past his hands and face while holding his classroom door shut. And a friend, one amazing fiery redhead who died in her freshman French class. Not unlike the communities that you come from today, Virginia Tech can feel huge at times, but it can also feel so small. I hope that you never know the feeling of drowning in hopelessness when you cannot find someone and they haven't checked in, and the waiting for the list. You know the list is coming, but it doesn't make it any easier. I will never forget the sounds that come from a human being when that list is read. I hope that you never have to attend a funeral of a friend, or worse, your child, with national media in attendance. And the guilt. I hope that you never know the guilt that comes with being part of the people left behind with the wounds that don't bleed. A community numbering in the thousands that will never be the same, that will never forget the things that they heard or the things that they saw that day. Virginia Tech is not alone. There are countless communities that get forgotten when the next shooting happens, and you're left wondering, why in the hell isn't anybody talking about this anymore? About my school, about my friends, my loved ones? Why isn't anyone doing anything? Screaming out, why isn't there change? I thought Virginia Tech would be the end, that this would never happen again, that this had to be the end. Fast forward to Valentine's Day, 11 years later. There is a shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and my husband's best friend and college roommate was a teacher there. The degrees of separation for those of us affected by gun violence is 1, not 6. That night, I made a phone call to a friend, welcomed him to a club that no one wants a membership to, a club that no one will truly understand the price you paid to join until you're already there. This year alone, the family and friends of 83 victims of the 27 school shootings have joined our club. Wonderful teachers who are paying the ultimate price for loving our children. Innocent faces and laughter that are gone in an instant. We have become desensitized to the extraordinary levels of violence that are happening on a daily basis, and we must become human again. Don't lose your outrage. We have to fight. Whatever skill set you have, we need you. We need you to fight like hell, and we have to fight back. Thank you.
All right, so now we're gonna welcome up Miri Rabinowitz to the stage, who's gonna tell you how gun violence has affected her and her story.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. 3.5 years ago, on Saturday, October 27th, my husband, Jerry Rabinowitz, and 10 fellow worshipers were murdered at the Tree of Life building. To this day, my pain, my trauma is so great, I can't speak about that day or the events that followed. But I thought for certain I would never again experience such severe heartache. And yet, my shattered heart is breaking once again over the news of another elementary school shooting and the loss of 2 teachers and 19 children. In the 2 weeks since the Uvalde school massacre, there have been over 37 mass shootings and the senseless loss of over 200 lives. So while my heart is breaking, I'm also angry. I'm so angry that we allowed this to happen over and over again. How is it that we live in a country where we allow our children to be slaughtered in their classrooms, where parents and grandparents out shopping for groceries and birthday cakes get gunned down, where people are massacred while praying in their sacred houses of worship? Every time there's a school shooting, we get outraged. We say something needs to be done. And each time we get beaten down by those who don't want to change anything, by those who create fear that any common sense gun legislation means they're taking their Second Amendment rights away. I'm sick and tired of it. It's just not true. No one at any time has ever proposed taking all guns or Second Amendment rights away. We just want to make it a little harder to get them by those who mean to harm us. For crying out loud, you need to pass a test to get a driver's license. You have to get screened before adopting a pet from the shelter. Okay, I know those are privileges, not rights. But the point is, there are stricter rules and qualifications about all sorts of things way less dangerous than firearms. In many states, instead of making gun ownership more difficult, legislation is being passed that makes it easier. In nearly every one of these horrific mass shootings, a military assault weapon has been the weapon of choice. These weapons have one purpose: to kill a lot of people quickly. It's been explained that unlike other bullets that usually go through clean, this type of ammunition spreads out on impact and does fatal damage. Therefore, a hunter would never use this type of weapon. And the descriptions of the mutilated bodies of those once beautiful children in Uvalde are images that will haunt me forever. There is just no reason for any civilian to have military-style weapons. You can have your rifles, you can have your shotguns. You can have your pistols and handguns. You can hunt and protect yourselves just fine with these weapons. Some might argue that the bad guys will get the guns anyway. And they might. But does that mean we should make it so darn easy? If we can stop some of the killing, isn't that better than doing nothing? Doing nothing certainly did not save my husband or the children of Uvalde. I say, please, don't tell me you're pro-life when you glorify these killing machines. Please, don't tell me you're pro-police when you won't do anything. Not background checks, not 48-hour waiting periods, not restrictions on assault weapons. Let's shout from the mountaintops. Over 80% of Americans, including gun owners, agree that some of these legislations are necessary. I'm so weary of the hate and division being promoted by those catering to the worst in us in order to remain in or to gain power, instead of actually leading us to be the best we can. I know we are better than this. We need to be. We owe it to our children. We must hold our leaders accountable. We must demand our elected officials enact sensible gun policies. So what can we do? The answer is simple. It's a one-word answer. Vote. And if you're not registered to vote, run over to the tables behind me. They're in the shade. And go and register to vote. But that's not enough. You've got to show up to the polls on Election Day, November 8th. Friends, you're here today because you believe in this cause. We all need to vote our values and elect leaders that condemn the civilian possession of military firearms and who will demand we enact sensible gun laws. Friends, vote like your life depends on it. It just might. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna start kind of closing out for the day, but before we do that, I did want to invite you all. The tables down there, please go visit them. Register to vote, learn how you can get involved in the community. It's a great way to get started. And then before we close out, I just wanted to bring up Patrick from Ceasefire, who asked to say a couple of words.
Just thank you all for everything that you've been doing and what you're continuing to do. My name is Patrick Hodge. I'm a United States Air Force Lieutenant Colonel retired, Special Ops, an educator all my life, public health worker all my life, veteran for the rest of my life. And I have a message. Do we have veterans here today, military veterans? Thank you. Do we have police, fire veterans, EMS veterans? Thank you. Active and veterans. My message is for us veterans. The world knows, and it is a fact, that nobody knows firearms safety, firearms protocol, and safe weaponry better than veterans. End of story. We are the role models, folks. We need to actually get out and be those role models in any way you see fit. Now, I know I'm preaching and singing to the choir, but I want you all veterans and your families to take this song and sing it to the rest of the community. Be an advocate for safe, responsible gun owning and gun handling. We need you, we need us, we need each other. Thank you, veterans families. I love you all.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for staying. We really appreciate it. My name is Erin Smard. I'm currently now a college student, though when we started this chapter I was a junior in high school. And my heart breaks that I'm back here today giving another one of these speeches to a crowd of very similar people. I promise I just have a 2-page speech and then we're done. Like many of you, I'm here because I desperately want an answer to my questions. Why is the country I grew up in normalized gun violence, even to the extent that headlines bearing news of another mass shooting barely shocks me? Why did nothing change when I and several hundred children my own age organized an entire movement against such rampant gun violence in 2018, over 4 years ago now? How will we convince our representatives to finally reach a solution? What will a solution look like? Several politicians have trivialized the issue, blaming doors or video games for relentless tragedy that we witness every week, as if doors and video games don't exist outside of America. Some have concocted far more dangerous solutions, namely suggesting that we should place an even higher volume of police officers within public schools. As many of my other speakers here today have mentioned, that's not the answer. As David Hogg pointed out, a school officer didn't protect his classmates from a peer with a rifle. An entire unit of local police didn't protect 19 children massacred just a few weeks ago. So what's the answer? Not only do officers provide little protection to any children and teachers during a school shooting, they put non-white and disabled students in danger. The ACLU found, The ACLU found that law enforcement officers in schools are disproportionately more likely to arrest these students, to cite them, and to inflict harsher punishment upon them. Our Black, Latinx, and disabled peers have constantly pleaded for the removal of officers from our schools, as they clearly represent an inherent threat to their safety. Police officers in schools are not and never will be the answer. So the answer is, and it always comes back to this, gun restriction. Politicians will dance around this because they hold so fiercely to their interpretation of their Second Amendment right. So closely, they see past the bodies of thousands in the pursuit of what? Money, consistency, preservation of their reputation? I can't guess. But what I can confidently say is that the only thing which will lead us to avoid another march against gun violence in the city in another 4 years is national gun reform, the one thing we lack. In Pennsylvania, we don't even have the most basic laws ensuring safe gun ownership or regulating the security of a weapon in a home, let alone whispers of the semi-automatic weapons ban that we clearly need. And I promise you this, gun reform starts with you. This is a cliche phrase. The meaning is probably diluted for all of you because so many people have stood in this similar spot and said what I've just said. But it couldn't be more true. You have to change something yourself, whether that be how often you attend these events, how often you call representatives, how often you talk about gun violence, or even the career you pursue. It has to start with you and a concrete, meaningful change added to your life now. We don't have any more time, I'm begging you. So if you would like to work towards less headlines like the one we read all month, please talk to any and every one of these wonderful organizations around you. Sign up to vote and vote considerately and carefully with gun violence in mind. Sign up to join, like I said, to vote, to join any of the tables that we have here. We have amazing organizations here that are partnering with us today. join our local March for Our Lives chapter, take one of our flyers. I've written a flyer that outlines step for step how to get involved, how to call your officials, how to find out who your representatives are. It's a one-sheet page. It would be a really great benefit to everybody if you took one. Just please do anything you can to stop this. Thank you. And that closes our event. So thank you so much for coming. Please stop by these tables on your way and have a great day.